the child who screamed for help. The sky above the alien village was dark. Thick black clouds covered the sun, and cold wind moved through the broken houses. The streets were empty. But then, a small voice broke the silence. "Help, someone please." "Help!" a young alien boy shouted, his voice shaking. He ran barefoot through the muddy path, his skin turning pale from the cold. His big, bright eyes were full of fear. "My mother won't wake up." But no one came out. Windows shut, doors locked. No one wanted trouble. The boy ran to another house and knocked hard. "Please, she's not breathing," he cried. Nothing. His knees gave out. He fell to the ground, crying softly. He was just a child, maybe 6 or 7, thin, weak, and starving. He didn't know what to do. But someone was watching. Not from the houses, but from a small human outpost nearby. A human technician named Eric had just finished unloading supplies. He looked up when he heard the boy scream. Eric dropped the box in his hands and ran. He reached the boy quickly. The alien child looked up at him, scared. "Where's your mother?" Eric asked, kneeling. The boy grabbed his hand. "She won't wake up. Please come." Eric didn't think twice. "Lead the way." They rushed through the dirt roads until they reached a crumbling hut on the edge of the village. The door was hanging off its frame. Inside it was cold and dark. The smell of illness filled the air. There on the ground lay the alien mother. She was tall, thin, and her skin had turned a faint gray. Her eyes were shut. She wasn't moving. Her arms were wrapped around her chest, like she was still trying to protect herself from the cold. Eric knelt beside her. He checked her pulse, slow, very slow. "She's alive," he said, but barely. "How long has she been like this?" The boy didn't know. He just cried. Eric opened his emergency pack. He had basic supplies, mostly for humans, not aliens, but he had to try. He pulled out a thermal blanket and wrapped it around her. Then he checked her breathing. It was shallow. He looked around the room. No food, no fire, just a broken heater and a cracked window. They had been living here with nothing. The child whispered. "She gave me her food. She told me to eat it all." Eric felt a knot in his throat. This mother had starved herself to feed her child. Eric gently lifted the woman into his arms. "We can't leave her here," he said. "I'll take you both to the outpost. We have heat and medicine." The boy followed closely, holding Eric's jacket tightly. He didn't say a word. When they reached the human shelter, a guard blocked the door. "She's not human," the man said coldly. "Rules say no aliens inside." Eric stepped forward. "She's dying. She has a child. Are we really going to stand here and let them freeze to death?" The guard hesitated. "Orders are orders." Eric looked him in the eye. "Then I'll break them." He pushed past and took them inside. He laid the mother on a small cot and turned on a portable heater. The warmth filled the room slowly. The boy sat beside her, still holding her hand. Eric grabbed his med kit. He wasn't a doctor, but he'd seen enough in the field. He injected a small dose of fluid to help stabilize her. Then he gave her oxygen. Time passed. The boy fell asleep on the floor, shivering but calm. Eric stayed awake, checking the mother's vitals again and again. Every few minutes, he whispered, "Come on. Stay with us." Then, she twitched. Her fingers moved slightly. Eric leaned in. "She's fighting," he said softly. "She's still in there." But suddenly, her breathing stopped. The monitor beeped sharply. "No," Eric gasped. He began chest compressions. "Don't do this. Don't give up now." He pressed harder, counted seconds, tried again. The boy woke up. "What's happening?" he screamed. Eric didn't stop. "She's strong. She's not going to leave you." And then, just as suddenly as it had stopped, her chest rose again. She took a deep, raspy breath. The monitor slowed back to normal. Her hand twitched once, more. Her eyes didn't open, but she was breathing. "She's alive," Eric whispered. The boy ran to her and hugged her arm. "Mama." Eric leaned back and let out a shaky breath. He looked around the room. He had broken rules, risked his place in the colony, and used his last supplies. But for now, she was alive. And somewhere inside, Eric knew this was only the beginning. The alien mother lay still on the small cot. Her chest rose and fell slowly. Her skin was cold like ice, and her face looked pale. But she was alive. Eric sat beside her, watching her carefully. The small alien boy sat on the floor, hugging his knees, his big eyes filled with worry. "Will she wake up soon?" the boy asked in a small voice. Eric looked at him and smiled gently. "I don't know, but we're doing everything we can." He stood up and checked the oxygen mask on her face. Her body was weak. Too weak. She needed medicine. Real medicine, made for her kind. But the human outpost had only basic supplies, and none were made for alien biology. Eric rubbed his face with his hands. "This is bad," he muttered to himself. Suddenly the door burst open. What is she still doing here? It was Officer Hale, a human security chief. He looked angry. "You were told, no aliens in the shelter." Eric stood up. She was dying. I couldn't just leave her. "This is not a hospital," Hale snapped. "If command finds out, you'll lose your post, maybe more." "She's a mother," Eric said firmly. "She gave all her food to her son. She didn't choose to collapse. And now she's in my care." Hale frowned. "You're risking everything for them?" Eric didn't blink. "Yes." Hale looked at the boy, then at the woman. He sighed. "Fine. But if she dies, you're on your own. Don't expect help." He walked out, slamming the door behind him. Eric looked back at the woman. Her skin was colder now. "We need heat," he whispered. The small heater beside the cot was too weak. It barely kept the room warm. Eric stood thinking. Then he grabbed his own survival jacket and wrapped it around her. The boy pulled a blanket tighter around his mother's legs. "She always kept me warm, even when she was cold." Eric's heart hurt at the words. He turned to the wall. There was an old generator in the back room of the outpost, unused and dusty. He had once fixed it for emergencies. Maybe, just maybe, stay. "Here," he told the boy. "Watch her." Eric rushed down the hallway and entered the back room. It was dark and full of storage crates. He pushed them aside and found the generator. It was rusty, worn down, but it might still work. He pulled out his tools and began to repair it. Wires, fuses, sparks flew. He worked fast, hands shaking, knowing every second mattered. After 30 minutes, he tried the switch. Click. The generator came to life, with a low hum. Light flickered in the hallway. The heater roared softly. Eric smiled. "Come on. Hold together." He ran back to the room. Warm air was finally filling the space. The boy stood up quickly. "Is that heat?" Eric nodded. "Yes. It should help her body." He checked the mother again. Her skin was a little less cold now, but still pale. She wasn't waking up. Eric bit his lip. The warmth might not be enough. He needed something else. Something stronger. There was one last thing in his med kit. Plasma boost. A powerful injection made for humans in shock. It was dangerous, especially for alien bodies, but it might be her only chance. Eric looked at the boy. "I have something that could help her, but it's risky." The boy looked at his mother, then back at Eric. He didn't say a word, but he nodded. Eric took a deep breath. "Okay." He pulled out the injector and gently inserted it into her neck. Seconds passed. Nothing. Then, her chest rose sharply. She gasped, her eyes fluttering open just for a second. Eric leaned forward. "Can you hear me?" Her lips moved, but no words came out. Then her eyes closed again. "She opened her eyes," the boy cried. Eric nodded slowly. Yes, she's coming back. Suddenly the heater flickered and died. The generator had shut down. No, Eric muttered. He ran back to the back room and tried restarting it, but it was dead. Sparks flew again. It was overused. The heat was gone. Eric returned, frustrated, but the room was still warmer than before. And most important, the mother was breathing better. Her pulse was stronger. But then something strange happened. Eric heard a sound. A knock. He opened the door slightly and peeked outside. A tall alien female with glowing blue eyes stood there. Her clothes were ragged, but she held something in her hand, a small glowing herb. She will die again, the alien woman said, unless you give her this. Eric looked confused. What is it? A plant from our homeworld, she said. It restores what is lost, if she accepts it. Eric looked at the herb, then at the unconscious mother. Why are you helping? The alien woman tilted her head. Because you helped one of us. She placed the herb in his hand and vanished into the night. Eric returned and crushed the herb, mixing it with warm water. He carefully poured it into the mother's mouth. The boy watched closely, holding her hand. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then, her breathing slowed, but it became steady. Her body relaxed. Eric smiled and sat down beside the cot. She's going to make it, he whispered. But inside, he knew the fight wasn't over. Yet, the alien mother was still breathing, but she did not open her eyes again. Her chest rose and fell gently, and her skin had turned from icy pale to a light blue-gray. Eric sat beside her, watching the monitor. He had placed a borrowed oxygen tube on her face and changed the warm cloth on her forehead again and again. The little alien boy had not left her side, not even once. She's sleeping, Eric whispered. The boy looked at him. Will she wake up? Eric didn't answer. He didn't want to lie. It had been 2 days since he gave her the strange herb. She had stabilized, but her mind, her awareness, was still gone. She didn't respond. She didn't speak. She didn't move except for her slow breathing. Eric called it a coma. The boy just called it sleep without dreams. Outside the outpost, people were talking. Other humans weren't happy. Some said Eric had broken protocol. Others said he was a traitor for helping an alien. But Eric didn't care. His duty now was to this woman and her child. That night, the boy climbed onto the cot and laid his head near his mother's shoulder. I want to tell her a story, he said. Eric nodded. Okay. The boy began softly. Once there was a mama star and a baby star. The mama star was big and strong, but one day she got tired. She stopped shining. So the baby star looked for help. He searched every galaxy until he found a human. The human didn't know stars, but he cared. And because he cared, the mama star started shining again. He stopped. Do you think it's a good story? Eric's eyes were wet. Yes, it's beautiful. Then something changed. The mother's finger moved. Eric stood up quickly. Did you see that? The boy gasped. She moved. Eric leaned in. Ma'am, can you hear me? The woman's eyes fluttered. Then slowly they opened, just a little. Her pupils were wide and unfocused. Her lips parted, but no sound came out. She's waking up, Eric said. Stay calm. The boy grabbed her hand. Mama, it's me. I'm here. The woman's eyes turned toward the sound. But instead of peace, her face twisted in fear. Her body tensed. She tried to sit up, shaking. Eric stepped forward. It's okay. You're safe. But she let out a soft scream and pushed the boy. Away, no, she cried. Don't take him, not again. The boy fell to the floor in shock. Mama. Eric held up his hands. You're not in danger. No one is taking your son. But the woman kept shaking. Her voice was full of panic. Humans came. They took our food. They hurt people. Where am I? Eric stepped back. Her memory was damaged. She didn't remember him. She didn't even recognize her own child. He gently helped the boy to his feet. Give her a little time. The child wiped his tears. She doesn't know me. She will, Eric promised. Her mind is scared, but her heart will remember. Over the next few hours, the woman calmed down. She no longer fought Eric or screamed, but she remained quiet, confused and distant. She looked at the boy with cold eyes, not knowing who he was. Eric offered her warm soup. She accepted it. But when the boy brought her a small toy, something she made for him long ago, she didn't react. The boy whispered to Eric, "I think she forgot me forever." Eric crouched down. Sometimes the brain forgets, but the soul remembers. Just be patient. That evening, something unexpected happened. Eric stepped outside to check the fuel cells, leaving the boy and his mother alone for a few minutes. The boy sat quietly beside her. His little hands shook as he placed her hand over his. "I love you, Mama," he whispered. He began to sing. It was a soft lullaby, a melody his mother used to hum when they had food, warmth, and peace. The woman didn't speak, but slowly, her hand tightened around his. The boy looked up. Her lips were moving. "My star," she whispered. The boy gasped. "Mama?" She blinked, looking at him clearly for the first time. Her voice cracked. "My little star." Eric returned and saw her sitting up, holding her son gently in her arms. The child's face was buried in her neck, crying softly. "She remembers me," he cried. "She remembers." Eric stepped back and smiled. The coldness in the room was gone now. A warmth had returned, not from the heater, but from the love between a mother and her child. The woman looked up at Eric. "You saved us?" He nodded. "I tried." She blinked slowly, her voice weak. "Thank you, human. I don't know why, but thank you." Eric sat down beside the bed. "Rest now. You're safe here." She held her son tightly, as if she never wanted to let go again, and, for the first time in days, she closed her eyes, not in fear, but in peace. The next morning came with silence. The sky outside was cloudy and gray. Inside the small room, the alien mother was still resting, her child sleeping beside her, holding her hand tightly. For now, things were calm. Eric watched them from a chair near the door. He hadn't slept all night. His eyes were tired, but his mind was wide awake. He had saved her life. She had finally remembered her son. That should have been the end of trouble. But trouble had just begun. Footsteps came from the hall. Eric stood up as two officers entered. Officer Hale was in front holding a datapad. His face was cold, his voice even colder. "We received a report," Hale said. "Command knows there's an alien mother inside this shelter." Eric didn't respond. "She's undocumented," Hale continued. "She entered human territory without permission, and she brought a child." Eric crossed his arms. "So what? She was dying. Her son begged for help." "It doesn't matter," Hale said sharply. "Orders are orders. She has 24 hours to leave the shelter and this colony." Eric's jaw tightened. "She's barely walking." "Then you'll carry her," Hale replied. "But she's leaving, today." The door slammed behind them as they left. Eric turned to the mother who was now sitting up, holding her son protectively. "You heard him," Eric said softly. "They want you out." Her eyes filled with fear. "But we have nowhere to go." Eric knelt beside her. "I'm not letting them throw you into the cold. We'll find another way." That night, as the shelter lights dimmed, Eric made a plan. He packed food, blankets, a small heater, and water into an old bag. He helped the mother stand, wrapping her in 2 coats. The child held her hand, trying to be brave. Eric led them to the back exit, but as he opened the door, he stopped. A metal lock had been installed, and above it, an alert sensor. Someone had locked them in. "They blocked us," Eric whispered. "They want us to fail." The mother looked around nervously. "We can't stay here, they'll force us out in the morning." Eric thought fast. There was another way out, but it wasn't safe. 10 minutes later, Eric led them through the maintenance tunnels beneath the shelter. They were narrow, cold, and filled with dust. Pipes hissed above them. The mother coughed from the cold air but kept walking. The child clutched her hand. After half an hour, they reached a small exit hatch. Eric opened it carefully and peeked. Outside, snow, darkness, wind. But they were free. They stepped out into the night. The village lights were far behind them now. Eric took them to an old storage shed near the edge of the colony. No one used it anymore. Inside was dry ground and broken crates, but it was shelter. He set up the heater and handed them warm packs of food. "This isn't much," Eric said, "but it's safer than staying in the outpost." The child looked around. "Will they find us?" "Not here," Eric said. "This place is forgotten." The mother sat down and looked at Eric. "Why are you doing this?" He paused, then said, "Because when your son cried for help, no one answered. I couldn't walk away." She looked down, her hands shaking. "You've given us more than food or shelter, you gave us hope." Eric smiled gently. "Hope keeps people alive." Suddenly a loud crack echoed outside. Eric stepped to the door and peeked out. Flashlights. Voices. "They're searching," he said, "probably scanning heat signatures." The mother stood quickly. "We'll go, we can hide in the woods." "No," Eric said. "You just got better. You can't survive another freeze." He pulled out a heat blocker device and placed it over the heater. The signal would be hidden for a few hours. The footsteps came closer, then passed by. They were safe, for now. Later that night, while the mother and child slept, Eric sat at the entrance with a small weapon in hand. "Just in case." He stared at the stars above. The same stars he once saw as cold, distant lights now seemed closer. This wasn't just about saving a life. This was about standing against a world that had forgotten how to care. The next morning, Eric woke to the sound of laughter. The child was dancing near the heater, smiling. The mother was feeding him a warm bite of bread. She looked weak but alive. Her eyes held peace. Eric stepped in, surprised. "What's going on?" The mother smiled softly. "He said he had a dream, that the human stayed with us forever." Eric looked at the child. "And what did you say?" The child laughed. "I said maybe humans aren't so bad." Eric chuckled. Maybe they aren't. But even as they smiled, Eric knew one thing. The colony wouldn't stop hunting them. They had locked the door once. Next time they might burn it down. Night returned. The stars above were bright, but the cold was cruel. Inside the old storage shed, Eric sat near the door with a small pulse gun in his lap. The alien mother and her son were sleeping again, wrapped in 2 blankets near the weak heater. Eric didn't sleep. He couldn't. Every sound outside made him alert. He knew the human patrols were still searching, but that wasn't the only thing watching them. Around midnight, the heater gave a short click, then shut down. The warmth faded instantly. The mother shivered. The child stirred in his sleep. Eric checked the device. The battery had drained. He opened his pack, but there were no spares left. He stood up, put on his coat, and whispered to the mother, "I need to find another power cell. Stay hidden, don't make any noise." She nodded, half awake, holding her son tightly. Eric stepped outside. The wind cut through his jacket like knives. The snow was thin, but the air was bitter. He moved fast toward an abandoned scout station nearby. He remembered once seeing backup power cells there. But as he reached the door, something moved in the trees. Eric froze. Then he saw her. A figure, tall, slender, not human. Glowing blue eyes stared at him from the shadows. She stepped forward. Her skin was pale gray and her hair shimmered like silver dust. She was alien, but not like the mother or the child. She was older, stranger, and calm. "You again," Eric said softly. "You brought the healing herb." She nodded once. "You took my gift. Now I offer another." Eric looked confused. "Why are you helping me?" The alien woman didn't blink. "Because you do what your kind never does, you care." She opened her hand. Inside it was a small, glowing crystal. "This will power your heat source." Eric hesitated. "You just carry power cells?" "It's not a cell," she said. "It's a shard from the heart tree. Ancient, rare, but it gives warmth, even to the forgotten." Eric gently took it. The shard felt warm in his hand, alive. She turned to leave. "Wait," Eric said. "Who are you?" She looked over her shoulder. "I was a mother once too, before the war took everything." Then she vanished into the darkness. Eric returned to the shed and inserted the crystal into the heater. It lit up instantly, stronger than before. A wave of warm air filled the room. The mother woke slowly. Her body relaxed. The child smiled in his sleep. Eric sat down, holding the shard's glow close. In the morning, the mother watched Eric closely. "You were outside," she said. He nodded. "Had to find warmth." "You found her, didn't you?" Eric paused. "You know her?" The mother lowered her eyes. "She was once part of our High Council. A healer. When her children died in the war, she left the city and became a wanderer." "Why? Is she helping us?" "Because you reminded her that kindness still lives." Later that day, footsteps were heard outside again. Eric peeked through a crack. 2 human patrol officers were scanning the area. They had heat detectors. Worse, they had a dogbot designed to sniff out living beings. Eric cursed under his breath. The mother tensed. The child squeezed her hand. "We can't run," she whispered. "No," Eric said. "But maybe we don't have to." He stood up and walked to the far wall. There was an old trapdoor beneath a crate. He yanked it open. "A smuggler tunnel," he said. "Forgotten years ago." He looked at the mother and child. "Go, I'll buy you time." The mother grabbed his arm. "No, you come with us." Eric shook his head. "They know my face, I lead them away. You go and hide. I'll find you later." The boy started crying. "Don't leave us." Eric knelt and hugged him. "I'll be okay. But your mom needs you more." He handed the crystal shard to the mother. "Take this. Stay warm. Stay alive." Then he stood up, opened the door, and ran. The patrol saw him instantly. "There!" someone shouted. "It's the human. He's helping the aliens." They chased him across the snowy field. Eric ran as fast as he could, leading them away from the shed, away from the tunnel. He heard them close behind. His heart pounded. His breath was sharp in the cold air, but he didn't stop. He couldn't, because, behind him, in a dark tunnel lit by a glowing shard, a mother and her child were safe. Back in the shed, the mother sat beside her son, holding the crystal in her hand. Its light reflected in her eyes. "Will he come back?" the boy asked. She pulled him close. "He promised, didn't he?" The boy nodded. "Then he will," she said softly. And in the quiet dark of that forgotten place they waited, for the one human who had chosen to protect instead of fear, the one who had been watched in the dark, and who had now become the light. The tunnel was deep and quiet. The only sound was the soft hum of the crystal shard glowing in the mother's hand. It kept the cold away, but it could not warm her heart. She sat on the ground, back against the tunnel wall, her son curled up beside her. He had fallen asleep again, tired from fear and running. His tiny arms held her waist as if he thought she would disappear if he let go. But even as he slept peacefully, she was struggling. The alien mother stared at the tunnel wall with wide, confused eyes. The faces she saw in her mind weren't real. Memories flashed. Too fast, too broken. She saw flames, screams, soldiers dragging people away, a small baby in her arms crying. Then, nothing. Her chest tightened. She looked at the child sleeping beside her. His face was familiar. Too familiar. But something inside her said, "He isn't yours. He belongs to someone else." She shook her head. "No," she whispered. But the voice in her head was louder. "They stole him and gave him to you. You don't know who he is. You just think you do." She covered her ears. "Stop it." The crystal flickered in her hand. Her breath became fast. Her hands began to shake. The child stirred. His eyes opened. "Mama." She looked down at him, blinking. His face, it was her baby's face. But then, in her broken mind, it turned into another child's face. Then another. Faces she couldn't name. The boy sat up. "Mama, are you okay?" She backed away slowly, breathing hard. He moved toward her. She stood up quickly. "Don't come closer." The boy froze. "What's wrong?" I don't know you," she whispered. "You're not my son." Tears ran down the boy's cheeks. "But I am. You said I was your little star." "I never said that," she snapped. "Yes, you did. You said it yesterday." "I don't remember that." The crystal's light dimmed again. The cold returned, but it wasn't just in the tunnel, it was in her soul. She turned away, pressing her back to the wall. Her arms hugged herself. "I don't remember anything," she said in a shaky voice. "I don't know who I am. I don't know who you are. Everything's broken." The boy cried harder. "But I do. You're my mama." Her eyes closed tightly. "Please, just let me rest." At that moment, footsteps echoed through the tunnel. The child turned. It was Eric. He limped slightly, his face bruised, jacket torn from running through the forest. But he was alive and smiling. "You found the tunnel," he said, breathing hard. "Good." The boy ran to him, sobbing. "Mama doesn't know me anymore." Eric looked at the mother. Her back was turned. She didn't move. He saw the shaking in her shoulders. He knelt beside her. "You're safe now. It's okay." She whispered, "No, I'm not okay. Something's wrong with my mind. I can't think right. I see things that aren't there." "You've been through too much," Eric said gently. "Your body survived, but your mind is still hurting." "I can't even hold my child," she said, her voice full of shame. "You don't have to. Fix everything in one day," Eric told her. "Just let yourself rest. Let the pieces come back." She turned her head slightly. "But what if they don't?" He looked into her tired eyes. "Then we make new ones." The boy sat quietly near, the wall hugging his knees. Eric walked over to him. "She's scared," Eric said softly. "She's not trying to hurt you." The child nodded. "I know, but it still hurts." Eric put a hand on his shoulder. "Do you want to help her remember?" The boy wiped his tears. "Yes." "Then come with me." Together they went back to the shed. Eric had hidden a small satchel behind a crate. Inside was something he had grabbed before leaving the outpost: photos, drawings, and an old necklace made of beads. He gave the satchel to the boy. "Go, show her." The boy returned to the tunnel and sat across from his mother. He took out a drawing, him and her standing under a sun. He had drawn it months ago. "You told me to draw what made me happy," he said. "This was the happiest day. You found berries and we ate together." She didn't speak. He showed her the necklace next. "You made this for me. You said every bead was a promise, one for safety, one for love, one for dreams." He placed the necklace in her lap. "I still believe in those promises, even if you don't remember them." She stared at the necklace, eyes wide. Her fingers touched the beads. Then, one tear fell from her eye. Then another. She whispered, "I remember this." The boy smiled, his eyes shining. "You do?" She nodded slowly. I remember making this. You gave me that drawing and called me your hero. She looked up at him. You called me Mama Star. The boy rushed into her arms. This time she didn't push him away. She held him tight, crying with him. Eric watched from the side, quiet but smiling. A mother's mind can be lost in pain, but love can lead it home again. The tunnel was no longer cold, not because of the heater, not because of the crystal, but because the warmth had returned between a mother and her child. The alien mother sat with her arms wrapped around her son, rocking gently, eyes red from tears, but clearer than ever before. Her mind was still fragile, but something had clicked. She remembered his laugh, his favorite song, the way he called her Mama Star, and now, she was holding him like she never wanted to let go again. Eric stood a short distance away, giving them space. But the mother looked up at him with soft, grateful eyes. You came back, she said. Eric nodded. Didn't I promise? She smiled gently. You keep your promises. Outside, the snow was falling again, quiet and endless. Eric knew they couldn't stay in the tunnel much longer. They were safe for now, but supplies were low. Patrols might sweep the area again. He walked over and sat near them. We need to move soon. The mother looked worried. To where? There's a human camp 2 valleys east, Eric said. Far from the colony. It's a place for outcasts, travelers, workers. They don't care where you're from, as long as you don't bring trouble. The boy looked up. Can we live there? Eric smiled. We can try. The mother asked. We? Eric paused. I meant, I'll take you there, then leave if needed. She looked at him, eyes steady. Why would you leave? Eric shrugged. Maybe I've already caused you enough trouble. She reached for his hand. Her fingers were still cold but firm. You didn't just save my life. You gave my son a future. And you stayed when no one else did. He looked into her eyes. She wasn't just thanking him. She was offering something more. You don't have to leave, she whispered. You're part of us now. The journey to the new camp began before sunrise. Eric helped carry the supplies, and the boy walked proudly beside his mother. Though weak, she moved with new strength. It took 2 days to reach the valley. They passed frozen fields, dry rivers, and broken satellite towers. On the second night, they found shelter inside an old human transport ship, half buried in the snow. Inside, Eric lit a small fire and shared the last of the food. As they sat around the flames, the boy crawled into Eric's lap. Will you always stay with us? Eric looked at the mother. She smiled. You can say yes. Eric nodded. Then yes, always. When they finally reached the human camp, the guards looked at them carefully. But one woman, tall with a metal arm, nodded at Eric. You helped me once, she said. When my ship crashed, I owe you. Eric smiled. Can we stay? The woman looked at the alien mother and child. This place doesn't judge. If they need a home, they have one. Days passed, then weeks. The alien mother began to heal more. She helped cook, cleaned tents, and even sang again. Her voice was soft but full of feeling. The boy made friends. He played with human kids, showed them his necklace, and told them wild stories about stars and brave humans. Eric worked at the camp as a mechanic. He fixed heaters, drones, and old weapons. But every evening he returned to the same tent, the one where the mother and child waited for him with dinner and smiles. One night, as snowflakes danced outside their tent, the boy curled into a blanket and fell asleep beside the fire. The mother and Eric sat close. She looked at him and said, I still don't remember everything. Some memories are gone forever. Eric nodded. That's okay. You're building new ones now. She took a breath, nervous. And in those new memories, you're not just a helper. He looked at her. You're more than that, she whispered. You're the reason my child laughs again. You're the reason I'm still here. I want you to stay with us. Not just for now. For always. Eric's voice was soft. Are you sure? She smiled. Yes. We may not look the same, but my son already calls you family, and so do I. Outside the tent, stars filled the sky. Quiet. Peaceful. Inside, a human and two aliens sat together, no longer broken, no longer lost, just a family.